Welcome to News Laundry Chota Hafta. For the full episode, subscribe because it is behind the paywall and only subscribers get access to uncut, complete content. News Laundry Hafta is our weekly wrap of all that made the news, all that didn't, and all that should have and all that shouldn't have. We agree, we disagree, we critique, and occasionally we beat each other up. But it's all good fun. Subscribe.
This is a News Laundry podcast and you're listening to NL Hafta.
अंग्रेज अपना लगान और न्यूज़ लॉन्ड्री अपना हफ्ता कभी नहीं छोड़ते. We are back with another episode of Hafta from a COVID-afflicted Delhi, which apparently the numbers are now on the way down. At least the rate of increase has gone down. But that is not the case all over the country. We shall discuss that in some detail. And there is much more to discuss. But before we get into the discussions, let me introduce the panel to you. Today joining us from the studio are Mehraj and Manisha. Hello.
Hi.
Lady and gent. Three of us are here. Joining us from their homes are Raman sir. Hi, sir.
Hi.
And joining us from Patna is Anand. Hi, Anand.
Hello.
And joining us from Bangalore is Dhanya Rajendran. I'm sure all of you listening know who Dhanya is. She is the co-founder and the editor-in-chief of the News Minute, and she has had a long innings as a journalist before that with various legacy media channels. Hi, Dhanya.
Hello.
And I believe Bangalore is now, which is where you are, is now the new hub, right? The most concerning area where numbers are going through the roof.
Yes, Bangalore has the most active COVID-19 cases in India right now.
I see. And you guys are all working out of home. How has it impacted your team?
Many people have got the infection, not just in Bangalore, in Hyderabad, in Kerala. I mean, almost all our bureaus or somebody in the family is sick. So everyone's working out of home.
I see. Well, we have, as we speak, I think two of our reporters, which is Akanksha and Shivangi, are back in town. They were in UP, whereas Basant and Ayush are still on the road. So do contribute so we can make sure we can get as much ground reportage for you as possible. Go to newslaundry.com and click on the subscribe button. Many of you have actually subscribed last week. Thank you so much. We need many thousands more. But before we get on to the rest, and I have so many other requests from you, Manisha, let's go over the headlines and then get into the discussion at once.
So India has recorded 3.62 lakh fresh COVID cases and 4,120 deaths in the past 24 hours. The World Health Organization says a coronavirus variant first found in India is of global concern. Religious and political gatherings contributed to surge in cases in India, says WHO. We all knew that. 26 COVID patients died at state-run Goa Medical College and Hospital. The Goa Health Minister has sought a probe in the case to find out the exact cause. At least 11 COVID-19 patients died due to a problem in oxygen supply inside the ICU in government-run Ruia Hospital in Andhra Pradesh. At least 50 unidentified bodies have been found floating in the Ganga over the past couple of days, many of them decomposed and bloated. Multiple bodies were found buried in sand at least 2 locations along the Ganga in Uttar Pradesh's Unnao district on Wednesday. This was reported by NDTV. Bharat Biotech gets approval for clinical trials of Covaxin on children aged 2 to 18. Karnataka and Maharashtra to stop vaccinating 18 to 44 age group due to shortage. Meanwhile, Delhi has also shut 125 centers saying that they do not have vaccines. The ED has registered a case of money laundering against former Maharashtra Home Minister Anil Deshmukh. According to a list compiled by the Network of Women in Media, at least 235 journalists have lost their lives to the coronavirus in the country. Meanwhile, according to the Press Emblem campaign, India loses 4 journalists every day to the virus. Bharatiya Janata Party leader Himanta Biswa Sarma took oath as the 15th Chief Minister of Assam, and the picture that was tweeted out showed all these ministers without a mask. Stalin was sworn in as Tamil Nadu CM. Ministers also took oath at Raj Bhavan. This was a well-attended swearing in. I saw PK and Abhishek Banerjee there sitting. Hearing the plea seeking interim stay on Central Vista, the centre told the Delhi High Court that 400 workers for the redevelopment of the Central Vista Avenue were engaged well before the imposition of curfew in Delhi, and that the workers are staying at site in accordance with official COVID guidelines, though the Quint video report on this shows otherwise. Amid criticism, Centre prohibits photography, video recording at Central Vista project site. Leaders of 12 major opposition parties wrote to Prime Minister Narendra Modi seeking a free mass vaccination drive against COVID-19 and a suspension of the Central Vista revamp project to aid the fight against the pandemic. The center has filed an affidavit in the Supreme Court saying that its vaccination policy has been framed to ensure equitable distribution, that it was non discriminatory and based upon an intelligible differentiation factor between the two age groups. Several shops and houses have been damaged because of a cloudburst at Uttarakhand's Dev Prayag. No casualties have been reported. Delhi police has issued a lookout circular against the two-time Olympic medalist Sushil Kumar. He fled after a 23-year-old former junior national champion Sagar Rana was beaten to death during a brawl at Chhatrarsal Stadium parking area. Meanwhile, the Government of India and its proxies have launched a positivity campaign. This includes RSS launching a nationwide campaign to provide relief to victims and counter the atmosphere of negativity. Also, ministers are tweeting articles from something called the Daily Guardian. So we'll discuss that. Own up to mistakes, provide transparency and responsible leadership. This is what an editorial in Lancet has said to the Modi government. Supreme Court has launched an app that will provide links for virtual hearing to media persons. In world news, at least 35 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli air raids on the Gaza Strip, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry. I think also 6 Israelis have also died. Among the casualties, a woman from Kerala working in Israel was killed allegedly in a Palestinian rocket strike on Tuesday. The Taliban has declared a 3-day ceasefire across Afghanistan to mark this week's Eid al-Fitr holiday. This came 2 days after more than 50 people, mostly young girls, were killed in bomb blasts outside a school in the capital of Kabul.
Right. Now, we are recording this hafta on Thursday, the 13th of May at 3:15 in the afternoon. So you know what we may have missed, because anything that occurs after this will not be able to make it on the hafta. I want to start off with this whole positivity spin campaign. And I guess each one of us can give our experiences, because we have someone from Patna, of course, Dhanya is in Bangalore. Just to give context, last week or this week while we're recording this, a bunch of ministers and BJP spokies tweeted an article from something called the Daily Guardian, which said that how the Prime Minister works very hard. In fact, literally...
In caps.
Rijiju's, it was in caps. The Prime Minister is working very hard. Don't
No,
be
the
fooled.
headline was in caps.
Achha, the headline was also in caps.
Everyone shared the headline.
So, full disclosure, I used to be a columnist for this paper when it was still a newspaper before News Laundry. This is when Amji Akbar owned it. So
But those are two different papers. You were for Sunday Guardian, this is
Yeah,
Daily
Sunday
Guardian.
Guardian,
Owned by the same group, but
it was,
different
yeah,
papers.
So if someone suddenly Googles Abhinandan and they've uploaded my old article, अबे तू भी इसके लिए लिखता था साले, अब बड़ा बोल रहा है. But yeah, I used to write a weekly column, I think, for them years ago when it was just the Sunday Guardian. So that positive spin. Then there's been the RSS is having this seminar or this mela, whatever they call it, where I think Sadhguru's is his own positivity campaign. Everyone's doing their own positivity campaign.
RSS is separate.
So the RSS is also doing their own positivity campaign. And the international press, of course, has pushed back and mocked India, not India, but mocked the Indian press for these positivity spins. Now, is this actually being able to do what the government or the Prime Minister intends, or is it having a counterproductive effect? We can start with that, and through that, of course, we'll also get to know what is happening. So let me go with you, Raman sir, and then we can come to Anand and Dhanya, and then, of course, our people here can talk. You've seen the articles that are coming. You've seen the noise on social media, because that is where the BJP starts all its battles. Has this been a bad idea, this positivity spin? It's not possible to spin this positively. Strategically, it's the wrong kind of track to go down. What do you think, sir?
See, we all know that we need to keep, especially the administrators and the political administrators as well as bureaucrats, all of us have to keep, some kind of sanity so that we are able to, come out of this crisis. Okay. Having said that, I think as reporters and as media persons, I think we also need to report things as they are. If there is a woman who's standing outside the hospital, with her parents, her father gets admitted, okay, and the mother doesn't, and the father dies in the night, and the next day the mother dies. Now, what kind of positivity you are going to teach them? So I feel that as media persons, we will report as the facts are on the ground. Okay, and if people dub us as negative people, negative reporters, someone's who are not reporting who are not conveying the positivity, I'm sorry, we cannot, because we don't see any positivity around us. But yes, we have also seen some individual efforts being done, during this COVID crisis, and we have noted them. We have reported that also. And what RSS has done, I think I read Premji's speech today, which is pretty good. I mean, I take it in right strides. Okay, I take it in right strides. I mean, I'm okay with whatever he has said. That the truth must prevail. So, is the truth prevailing? In fact, you get so much negativity out of it when he has spoken about two things, and you see those two things are not happening. The science is not happening, and the truth is not happening. When he talks about science, I mean, imagine today, Prashant Bhushan, on behalf of one medical expert, has filed a petition with the Supreme Court seeking transparency in vaccination trials. So whatever trials that have happened, so they just want that the government should make it public, so that whatever vaccines we are taking, we should know the kind of impact they have. So the science is not happening, and the truth is not prevailing.
So there are two aspects to this. One is that they're caught up in their own this fantasy world where it has worked so well until now and they're doing it. Another is that this is just an example of a social problem, what the government is doing now. This whole positivity thing, it's not a new thing. There is a whole industry of this positivity in India. Deepak Chopra, I mean, he's a star of this whole thing. He's sort of the guru of this thing. Go to any town, go to any city, you'll see these boards about self-help gurus, think positive, do this and all that. Seriously, why? Because this has been, I think, at least for 2000 years now, because of the caste system, because there's always been this caste and class elite who have utter devastation around them, misery all around them. Even now, when you have bodies floating in the river, when people had to walk home and died on the way, the worst that happened to them, I mean, now it's become more macabre, but the worst that happened is they were banging thalis on their balconies, right? They were working from home. So they have always had it better. In this sea of misery, there were this caste of people who always had it good, and they always, obviously, they would tell you that be positive because it was great for them. You couldn't tell them, oh, this thing is happening and everything is happening. Now what is basically is happening is that there's this sort of a class of people who are sitting for a feast, everything is great, and you're telling them there's shit on the table. Obviously they won't like it. So that is this whole business of positivity, think positive and all that. Because they don't want you to look elsewhere. They don't want you to remind them that.
Do you think it will work at any level?
See, at a level, because BJP and I mean everybody knows that their primary constituency is only these people, right? This class, this sort of caste and class elite, and they think the same way. So in that sense, yes. But the problem now, their problem is because international media, everyone else is taking a huge interest in what is happening around. So it isn't as easy, because even when this caste of people dominate the media, academia, everywhere, there are cracks appearing, because you can't, I mean, this bigger reality you can't hide.
Yeah, there are different cracks appearing, although Twitter is a microcosm of the entire Indian diaspora.
And another thing added, one thing that could really work against them is because now these people are also hurting.
I think it will work, the positivity spin, because I think Indians are great at negating their own miseries. You know, you've seen this with demonetization. 6 years down the line in Bengal, people were saying that, oh, bada acha kaam kiya demonetization mein. We know from the first wave when the migrants were, forced to walk back, they walked back, and things just went back to normal for them. I mean, I think Indians in general just accept their suffering and say, oh, bada bura hua, but chalo, let's move on. There's some part of us that just forgets our own miseries. But secondly, I also think that the spin has already started, and you have to look at what mass media channels like Republic, Aaj Tak, Zee are doing, which have millions and millions of reach. They're essentially slowly and steadily telling people that this was beyond Modi's control. This was either it's, bizarre theories like warfare, bio-warfare by China, ye to yuddh hamare upar ho gaya, to kya karte? Dusra, blaming the states, saying that Modi had warned enough people. And they're doing it very carefully. We've done 2 nuisance episodes on this, how Sudhir Chaudhary took clips from a PM-CM meet and just, turned it around saying that Modi had warned the CMs, but no CM heard him. So I think this positivity spin can work because it's coupled with a spin on how Modi tried enough, but he was struck by forces beyond his control, which is China bio-warfare. And this is actually happening on TV channels, prominent ones, where they're saying that this was actually the Chinese that have, sent this virus to India to attack us. And of course, saying things like the states tried. The states didn't do anything. The PM had warned them enough. And even if you look at this Guardian thing, the piece that everyone shared, it's quite curious that, on a website like Daily Guardian that has no readers whatsoever, no minister I think has ever before shared it. Why is it that all the cabinet ministers suddenly started, tweeting that with that headline? And it's not as if there aren't enough pro BJP pieces being written in Live Mint or wherever by, Swappan and all these guys. So, and this is what you do is you have these ministers tweeting it, you have these screenshots of Daily Guardian, and you circulate it on WhatsApp and say, Dekho, foreign media is praising us. Like what they're doing with Yogi Adityanath and WHO. Many channels have gone to town saying that the WHO is praising Yogi. What this actually is the WHO saying that we've collaborated with the Uttar Pradesh government to do contact tracing. And they've taken up this initiative and we are working on them. But the TV media has picked it up to say, look, foreign media is praising Yogi. Yogi ka karam yogi ka thappa lag gaya. So with this Guardian piece also, you never know how it's floating around on WhatsApp as, look, this Guardian piece has said that Modi is actually working very hard. So, I think, and also what do we mean by, will it work or not? I think we're looking at what will happen at 2024. I think it's long time till 2024. There'll be enough media propaganda to say that Modi tried hard enough. Modi will couple it with like direct cash transfers into people's accounts and people will forget it. And of course, I think the only thing that can really, if there was an opposition here that was really, and I don't mean chief ministers have written letters and I think it's a very strong letter and it should be played up more. But if you had a really strong opposition calling out the Modi government relentlessly, the way some journalists are doing, then I think it could have an impact on him. But that's not really happening.
So see, Tejasvi Surya after that, so basically on, I think 6th of May, he did two spectacles. One was a press meet in which he announced that there's a bed scam in Karnataka, which is something that people had known about. We were hearing about it. And the Times of India had done a report about people who were apparently paying money for beds, following which the BBMP on May 3rd had formed a committee to look into the allocation. Now, one BJP MLA called Satish Reddy had stormed into one of the war rooms and his people, his chamchas had basically assaulted an IAS officer demanding that beds be given. Now, we can't say if there's a scam there. It's an MLA who's basically asked for more beds, but whether there was a money exchange, we do not know. But anyways, what happens is Tejasvi calls for this press meet and says there's a bed scam and the bed allocation is not correct, which is fine. I mean, he's entitled to do that press meet and it's well and good if anyone exposes a scam. Now, but what he does simultaneously on the same day is that he and three BJP MLAs, including the Satish Reddy, whose aides had assaulted the IAS officer, Tejasvi's own uncle, who's a BJP MLA, four of them go to this war room and they start screaming at an IAS officer named Tulasi. Now, other than the whole the bit where he talks about the 16 Muslims, not 17, in fact, 16 Muslims, he reads out their names. The IAS officer who's charge of that war room, she's called Tulsi. Her name is Tulsi. And Tejasvi asks her, who are you? Where is your boss? She's like, I am the IAS officer here. But there must be somebody senior to you. Because in Tejasvi's world, women cannot be bosses, right? So that also really stuck out for me. Anyway, so he reads the 16 names and he screams at this woman saying that, who are these people? Who recruited them? Now, Tejasvi has been justifying himself, claiming that I never said these people are part of the bed scam. I only read out their names and asked who hired. That's a lie. Now, if you listen to that entire audio, Tejasvi reads out these names. His uncle asks the next question, is it a madrasa or a corporation? Why have they been hired? Then the other MLA, who Satish Reddy, clearly tells Tulasi in English, we have evidence, we have proof. These are the men who did it, which is the bed scam. So he did make that allegation. Now Tejasvi is claiming, oh, it was some list which the BBMP made. I'll tell you what I know about this. From last Saturday, BJP MLAs, or at least one MLA, asked the BBMP that in the South War Room, where, mind you, Tejasvi is the MP and the MLAs are from the BJP, at least one or two, that there cannot be Muslims in that war room. There were 212 people in that war room, of which 19 were Muslims. There were 16 men and 3 women who were Muslims. They clearly said, we want all Muslims removed from the war room. The BBMP Joint Commissioner struck a compromise and said, instead of removing them or sacking them, we will transfer them to other war rooms. And they made that list of 16 people they will transfer. That's the list which Tejasvi Surya had in his hand. It had nothing to do with the bed scam or hiring. It is really now up to the BBMP to come clean and say, why did they make that list?
Right.
Really pathetic, yeah? I didn't know about the list that was made beforehand saying
Yes,
that.
that's the whole point, which is what everybody was trying to ask Tejasvi. Now, if the BBMP commissioner, now yesterday somebody asked the BBMP commissioner who made the list. He says, I don't know who made the list. I'm sorry, you have put the future of 16 people in peril. And I know one of the women have quit in protest. She said, I cannot work in this war room, and she quit. And though the BBMP said they will take back the 16, that war room, they've already recruited other people. Okay. And Tejasvi, I mean, we wanted to actually do a story saying all the lies which Tejasvi uttered in his press meet. But then we decided we are not going to like spare even 5 words for him anymore. So he first thing he lied is that he said BBMP gave me the list. Who in the BBMP gave the list? Who in the BBMP prepared that list? Was that list prepared at the behest of a BJP MLA who wanted Muslims to be removed from the war room? That's the first question. Tejasvi said, I did not target the Muslims. There were other Muslims too in that war room. That's a lie. Out of 212, there were only 19 Muslims, as I said, and there were 3 Muslim women. Of course, because in Tejasvi's world, women cannot be bosses and women can just be in the call room or call centers. Maybe they didn't want the women to be sacked. So there were so many lies that he uttered. See, my point is, I felt very proud of that press conference that day when my colleagues, one was Arun Dev from Hindustan Times. He was working with the Quint for a long time and Times of India before that. He's now with HT. He joined very recently. The other is my colleague Prajwal Bhatt. And there were 2 more people, I think Shiva Prasad from TV9 and one more person, one more Kannada journalist, and Sudipto Mondal. They were the people asking questions. See, the point is a Tejasvi Surya, who's a young politician, should understand that they cannot simply say what they want and believe they will go unchallenged. And that's what a press meet actually showed.
Right. No, even the India Today, I saw the way they were covering it. Anything that is, that shows Tejasvi in a poor light, they don't report it as like he did such and such thing. Opposition demands Tejasvi's actions be scrutinized. Matlab, like you've also seen them, na? You like on others, like when they had the crowding of people who are crowding to buy remdesivir. I mean, the title there was villains. Now people are desperate to buy medicines and they're thronging a shop to buy it. They're not villains, but yet, I mean, they don't say, COVID experts call these people villains. Like India Today is calling them villains.
No, but I just want to point out here how disappointing this entire thing has been. Because in Bangalore, for example, from the beginning, there is an organization called Mercy Mission. It has a lot of Muslims. And now, of course, people from all religions. They were the ones who were cremating bodies. We all know how much they work. And the fallout of this has been so intense that many volunteers do not want to come anymore. They are scared that they will be victimized. There is this group, not VHP, but some other kind of VHP in Mangalore, which has now openly said that they don't want Muslims to cremate the bodies of Hindus, because all these months, the Muslim groups were cremating bodies in Bangalore, etc. And the kind of hatred, like the second this Tejasvi's press meet finished, I cannot tell you the number of forwards that were doing the round saying these Muslim terrorists, they want to kill Hindus. And people just forwarded. I mean, it's just so disappointing that in the last 1 year, what has this tragedy taught you? That people help, that these Muslims were there for us when everyone else required help. And at the drop of a hat, you are ready to show your communal self again. And for me personally, it is not just Tejasvi Surya, but a lot of people in Bengaluru and Karnataka too, and even other places who are forwarding these things have been disappointed.
This case that was, in UP and in Bihar, the what do you call
Dead bodies.
ambulance drivers basically just dumping the bodies because there's no one to take them, or the other theory is that there's just not enough space to cremate them.
Firewood also.
There's no firewood. So on that front, that is alarming. And I just thought that as an aside, it was such a ghastly sight. It made it as a story in one of the main bulletins of BBC International, CNN, because just the sight of dozens of bodies in a river would, if it happened in any Western country, shit would hit the fan in a big way. Here
No government in a civilized country would survive.
But even here it was story number 3 or 4. It wasn't even like the top story in many of the main
Prime time,
bulletins.
it wasn't even a story. It was a morning bulletin which really...
it was a morning bulletin story. So, I just thought that says a lot about us as a people. But if that is happening in Bihar, would it not suggest that the problem is far worse than what the kind of data suggests?
It's not just COVID. They always do it with impunity because they know the so-called world powers are on their side. They have absolute immunity to kill and massacre people. They have been doing that since 1948, so there's no problem. That's why they're doing. They don't need COVID as an excuse. So what the thing here is basically is that, I mean, like you were saying, so these, like the international media, Indian media, others have also reported it as clashes. These aren't clashes. So what happened is, how this particular bout started is, we can go into history later, is, so there are Palestinian homes in East Jerusalem which under international law is with the Palestinians. So there is these Israeli settlers who basically come into your home, tell you, get the hell out, this is my home now. That is basically it. And these people are resisting. So clashes happened
in
over
Sheikh
that.
Jarrah.
And then what happened is, during one of the holiest nights in the Muslim calendar, people were praying inside the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is like the third holiest site for Muslims anywhere in the world. And the Israeli troops went inside, fired rubber bullets, grenades, these things, terrorized people. Several people got injured. After that, the Hamas and other militant groups, they started, I mean, they only have rockets, they started firing rockets into Israel. And then they sent the jets in and like did another massacre. So this is really at its root, I mean, it's the so-called international media and analysts are trying to make it into this complex kind of a conflict. It's really basically just a simple conflict. There's this settler, colonial, ethno-racist, apartheid terrorist state which is terrorizing the people for the last 70 years. And because they have the impunity, they have the backing of the United States, European nations and everybody else, they are doing it with impunity. Massacre after massacre. Gaza right now is, I mean, Noam Chomsky described it as an open-air prison. It is that. I mean, it's been heavily blockaded for 11 years. They don't even let in medical supplies there. People have to dig tunnels out to Egypt until like the Muslim Brotherhood was there, and then it was closed also, to even buy medicines and essential supplies. I mean, people right now are living in like broken down homes. There are homes which are just like shattered buildings, so they're living there. And same is happening elsewhere in East Jerusalem, Ramallah, and all the rest of the Palestinian territories.
If you're talking about when I was a schoolboy, when we only used to get Doordarshan news, Raman sir would remember Yasser Arafat. Growing up, Yasser Arafat was like this peaceful, wonderful man, and that was the only version that we saw. And they always used to be an international capsule in the daily news. Whether it was Shammi Narang reading it or Salma Sultana, and they used to be, Aaj Israel ne phir inko peeta, phir. There was just, I mean, while I do think that the Israel aggression is, I mean, it is not both sidisms there. There is an obvious, I mean, the Palestinians clearly are the victims here. But yeah, we have traditionally always been on the side of the Palestinians. But now when we say traditionally, now, you see, India is no longer a 30-year history. Now India has a 75-year history. So what is traditionally? Is up to Narasimha Rao traditionally? Is Manmohan Singh traditionally? It's like saying we have been traditionally social. Like when people say that today, I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about here? The biggest, neoliberal land grab in the history of the world, other than maybe Chile, Venezuela under, when they would topple government, the USCI, has been in India during Manmohan's time.
SEZs.
So what is traditionally socialist about us, So I don't know what is traditionally
Traditionally,
anymore.
I mean, going back to Mahatma Gandhi.
No, in case of Palestine, it was also because, I mean, there was the early sort of founding fathers of India, there was this anti-colonial movement, and
Exactly.
the Palestinians
It had
had
a
the
lot to
same
do with
thing.
anti-colonial.
So there was that, and then there was this, like, there were ties with the Arab world because, like, you needed oil, you needed other things. You couldn't, like, afford to piss them off. And Israel wasn't the military and tech superpower that
Power
it is now.
Correct.
So, yeah. And also then
How
there's
can
this
we,
Hindutva
how can
element
we
also.
forget that Indira Gandhi and Yasser Arafat, hug, and it was at that time. I mean, I think it was a Time cover story, and in the Today cover, I remember that.
All of you listening in, the Chota Hafta, do subscribe so you can listen to the entire Hafta. We will see you again next week with the Hafta. Till then, subscribe, pay to keep news free, because when the public pays, the public is served. When advertisers pay, advertisers are served. Thank you. Goodbye.
All the News Laundry podcasts are available on Stitcher, iTunes, and any other podcast platform.
Please subscribe to News Laundry. Help us keep news independent. To catch all our podcasts on news, pop culture, current affairs, and sport, visit newslaundry.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Sun liya Afrika, mufat khoro. Not to brag or anything, but News Laundry Hafta features in the top 50 in the world on SoundCloud in the news and politics category for podcasts. So do subscribe and see what you're missing, because when the public pays, the public is served. When advertisers pay, advertisers are served. Subscribe help keep news independent and free.
All News Laundry podcasts are available on iTunes and Stitcher and any other podcast platform.